Warning: the following video contains disturbing themes and is intended for mature audiences only. Some stories are based on real events, others are inspired by legends, eyewitness accounts, or unexplainable phenomena. Viewer discretion is advised.
SCP-096 Through the Drone's Eye. Elias Richter, age 36, was a hobbyist drone pilot. On weekends, he left the city behind, carrying only his quadcopter, a spare battery, and the thrill of exploring landscapes from above. Flying gave him a sense of freedom, the ability to see what no one else could. But one Sunday morning, that freedom carried him straight into something he was never meant to see. Elias launched his drone from a mountain clearing. The camera feed streamed smoothly to his controller, showing ridges, valleys, and snowfields far beyond his own reach. For half an hour he drifted it over the slopes, weaving between crags and cliffs. Then he adjusted the zoom. At first, it was just a pale shape amongst the stone, too tall, too thin to be anything familiar. He steadied the drone, brought the camera closer. In an instant, the feed revealed a face, deformed, wrong, a face that should never have been seen. By the time Elias realized what he was looking at, the figure in his drone footage was already looking for him. Villagers miles away later reported hearing a scream tear across the valley, high-pitched, inhuman. It carried for kilometers, rattling windows and shaking nerves. SCP-096 was moving. Once triggered, there's no hesitation, no pause, only relentless pursuit. It does not stop, it does not slow. Terrain means nothing. Cliffs, snow, and stone crumble beneath its charge, and it always knows exactly where you are. Elias never had a chance. His controller was found beside him in a ruined cabin, the screen cracked, the drone feed still flickering. The walls bore the scars of impact, claw marks gouged deep into the wood. Of Elias himself, little remained. Hours later, Foundation agents secured the site. They tracked SCP-096 several kilometers north, where it was recovered without resistance. Crouched in the snow, curled into the fetal position, its hands pressed against its face, weeping as it always does after a kill. SCP-096 is now held in a sealed chamber under strict visual suppression protocols. No images, no recordings, no accidents. Its face must never be seen again, because even through a drone camera, one look is all it takes. SCP-8211, The Photographer's Silence. His name was Daniel Holt, 29 years old, a freelance photographer in Manchester, England. He lived for chasing moments, street corners, neon reflections in puddles, faces captured in mid-stride. Friends called him relentless, always with the camera slung over his shoulder. But one night, while reviewing his work, Daniel found a figure that wasn't there when he pressed the shutter. A man with no features, and from that moment, he was marked. At first, he thought it was a camera glitch, a blur, but the faceless figure appeared again and again at the edge of a crowd, reflected faintly in shop windows, standing motionless in the background of empty alleys he swore had been clear. Each photograph became a kind of warning. It was always there, just far enough away to be noticed only later. Within days, the figure followed him into his sleep. Lucid dreams gripped him. Always the same dark street, always the entity waiting at the corner, watching. He would wake with his heart racing, drenched in sweat, certain that if he had stayed asleep a moment longer, it would have stepped closer. Daniel stopped sleeping because the dreams were worse than exhaustion. He feared closing his eyes. He drank coffee until dawn, kept the lights on, even taped over the lens of his camera. But the more he resisted, the more the figure pressed into his waking life. His journals showed fear creeping in. It's waiting for me to answer a question I can't quite hear. I feel it in the dream, like it's on the tip of my tongue, but I hold my breath, hoping it doesn't speak. Weeks passed before the question came in his dream. The figure stood closer, now less a blur, more a shape he couldn't ignore. Daniel described its voice as inside his head, flat and cold, as though it had always known him. The question was simple: what do you value most? He told himself it was just a dream, but every night the figure asked again. Each time he refused to answer, the dream grew longer, harder to wake up from. By the final week, he was sleeping 14 to 16 hours at a time. His neighbors reported hearing him muttering in his room, arguing with someone who wasn't there. Daniel's body was found on April 4th, collapsed at his desk, his computer screen still displaying dozens of photographs, every one of them containing the same blank face positioned somewhere in the frame. Autopsy revealed catastrophic neural loss. His brain, spinal cord, and peripheral nervous system were absent, as though removed without a trace. Official cause? Undetermined. The Foundation logged him as victim 8211337. His journals recovered on site are archived as supplemental material for the SCP-8211 file. SCP-8211 remained uncontained. Its victims are chosen seemingly at random, tracked only when reports of faceless figures appear in photos or videos. Foundation protocol dictates monitoring, guidance, and amnestics where possible. But for Daniel Holt, as with many before him, intervention came too late. SCP-8223, The Fisherman's Last Voyage. His name was Thomas Calder, 54 years old, a fisherman all his life. He knew the Tasman Strait better than anyone, or so he thought. For 30 years, he pulled his living from those waters, feeding his family, repairing his boat, with his own hands. He laughed when younger sailors spoke of monsters beneath the waves, but one stormy night, those stories came true. It began suddenly. The sea churned as if the earth itself had turned against him. Wind howled and waves rose higher than he had ever seen. His small trawler was thrown side to side, ropes snapping, beams groaning. And then he saw it. A vast serpent body breaching the surface, longer than his entire vessel. Its movements weren't the aimless thrash of an animal. They were deliberate, controlled, as if it was testing him. The creature slid through the waves with unnatural grace, its massive bulk hidden and revealed again between the swells. Each time it surfaced, the storm grew wilder, as though the sea itself bent to its will. Lightning split the sky, and Thomas saw the ridges along its back glistening like wet stones. He had faced gales before, but never a storm that seemed to answer to something living beneath it. For the first time in decades, he was no longer captain of his own boat. He was prey. Thomas scrambled for the radio, but the static drowned every word. He turned, and in a flash of lightning, the truth revealed itself. A massive head rising from the water, eyes locked on him with unnatural focus. It wasn't blind instinct, it was hunting. The serpent circled the trawler, every coil sending waves that battered the hull, harder than the wind itself. Its sheer size dwarfed the boat, each shift in the water like the passing of a tidal wave. The storm roared louder, a hurricane building around him, and Thomas realized it wasn't just the sea that threatened to take his life, it was the creature commanding it. The air filled with a low, rumbling vibration, as though the storm carried the serpent's presence through every gust of wind and crash of water. Thomas gripped the wheel, knuckles white, but deep down he knew there was nothing left to fight. The strait belonged to the serpent now, and so did he. Days later, wreckage of his trawler washed ashore, splintered wood, torn nets, and an oil slick trail drifting across the current. Thomas Calder was never found. Officially, he was lost to rough seas, but the Foundation knew better. SCP-8223 claimed him, just as it has claimed many before. His family never learned what really happened, only that the sea took him, as it always had. The strait keeps its secrets, and Calder's fate became just another rumor swallowed by the tide. SCP-8223 is now contained in a reinforced aquatic chamber within Foundation custody. Its 6 eggs were recovered, though 3 were destroyed during capture. Direct observation is limited, and storms continue to manifest whenever the entity shows distress. Hey everyone, thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you made it this far, let me know your favorite SCP in the comments, and let me know if you like these art styles. This is my first video like this. I plan to do more. It was actually really fun to make. If you really enjoyed these videos, please subscribe and engage with the video. As a new channel, any and all engagement helps me grow. I do have a Patreon where I will be uploading extra content, as well as your name will be posted at the end of the video. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.